Welcome back to the Thinking Out Loud podcast. I am Emery McMillan, aka Coach Emery, and today I have with me a very interesting, amazing individual that I like to call family because of the last name, and it is Tamara McMillan. And Tamara, can you introduce yourself? And we are going to dive in with so many questions.
Oh my goodness, yes, Emery, thank you, fam, for having me on. First, just let me say, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for what you do. And I love the title Thinking Out Loud because that was actually the title of a blog segment of mine as well. So we have so much in common, last name, and again, just having places and spaces where dope people can get together and have wonderful dialogue. So thank you.
I love that. You're welcome.
Wow. Who am I? You know what? Like I said, I'm a liberated project girl from the east side of Buffalo, born and raised, Tamara McMillan, and always had a passion for education, but really didn't understand how prominent it would become. And I ended up going through some trials and tribulations as we all do. And then I determined that I could either wallow in them and I could either use those scars as pillars or those scars to be a victim. And I decided that I would be the victor in that. And in that, I said, hey, girl, hey, you know what? You're not the only one who's going through these kinds of things. And what I realized, Emery, I was going through divorce, and I realized I was suffering in silence. And most women, in particular, women of color, we suffer in silence. So I created my company just for a space, for real, for us to come together once a year, to let our hair down in a space where we didn't have to censor our material. If we want to cuss, we could cuss. If we want to smoke, we could smoke, and not feel like we would be judged. Right. And it has grown and it's blossomed and it's become some, a whole bunch of other things, because what I learned, Emery, is that there were so many things that women were missing.
Wow. So, yeah. I don't even know how to follow up with that. This podcast is over. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Right. We can all go home.
Right. You can go home now. Y'all can log off now. But right. No, that's amazing. So wait, let me just take it back a couple steps.
Sure.
So this transition you were going through.
Yes.
Now you said something that's very important, especially to us as African Americans in America or Black people in America, suffering in silence.
Yes.
What made you realize that? Like, how did you know that was happening? Because if you do, a lot of times we do things we don't know we're doing. How did you know that that's what you were doing?
You know what? That now is an amazing question. And how did it end up coming to clarity? I was asked, there are a lot of individuals, in particular, my mentees, even mentors and colleagues and scholars that have sat in my classroom. And Emery, they were asking me, well, how did you do it? How did you raise your daughter as a single parent, even though my ex-husband, were different. What I mean by single parent, yes, my ex-husband was around. He still is around. He loves his daughter. But when I say single parent, I mean, I'm in the house 24/7 all day, right? I mean, the primary responsibilities landed upon me as the custodial parent. So that's what I mean. So I wanted to give that definition because people are like, well, what do you mean? So yes, her father was around, but I'm saying I'm in the household by myself. And I received a lot of questions about how did I go about doing it? In Emery, it wasn't until being poked and prodded, and I write about this in my book also, that I realized that I was suffering in silence because I didn't have the answers, because I was in so much pain, because I said, listen, let me get through this as fast as I can, because it hurts too much, the trauma, the uncertainty, and then I come out on the other side. And guess what? I'm missing pieces, Emery, of the story. I'm missing pieces of me because I did not stand in the enormity of that pain, so that way I could recognize it again and say, hey girl, hey, you didn't done that before. So what happens? the saying goes, life often repeats itself because we're not paying attention. And the pain is there for a reason. So if it happens to you, Emery, it is for you. And I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to do that. And then guess what? It required me to go through it in another way, so that way I could at least piecemeal as much of my story together as possible for the benefit of others that came behind me or coming behind me.
Wow. This is your show. This is your show today. That's incredible. And it says a lot, because everything you're saying, you know, I resonate with as far as just different pieces of my life. Like,
sure,
when you think back on, like, how did you, when people ask you, how did you, and the only answer you really have is just like, God did it.
Yeah.
You know, but when you get home, when you get in the car and you think about the answer, like, of course you want to give God credit for what he did, but you start to ask yourself, I don't remember. I don't remember this piece of this thing. I don't remember healing from this. I don't remember the moment I decided I was done being a victim. I know that it happened, but I don't remember. Like you said, the pieces are missing. And then that's when you realize you did not talk about it with anybody. You did not share this with anybody. And now it's like, wait a minute, this thing ain't done. This thing is not done. I did not poke the middle of this thing to see if it sticks to the fork or not. This is not done. And so once you realize that you weren't done, like, how did you turn that into, like, I know you created, you know, the I guess it, like, I want to say like facility, but like, you created the space for people to come together. But how did you face going through it alone? Is that what made you want to create the space for other people so you can go through it with them, or was it just so no one else went through it alone?
Wow, that's a dope question. Like, I love everything about that. So I'm going to take the former part and then the latter part. So how did I get to that particular place? And then how did I, you know, begin pulling the pieces together?
Yeah.
So the blank pieces, the dark pieces, I went to my family, in particular my sister, my sisters and my mother, because they were there. And there were some parts of the story I really did forget. Like you said, I kind of blacked out. And then through them, with them, and my journals as well. And it's funny that, just thank you, universe. So you talk about God, I say universe because it's, you know, omnipresent, it's all knowing, right? And people get tripped up. I'm like, don't get tripped up in words, right? It's language I speak for a living and I love it. So my birthday was a week ago today. And I was in my attic doing some cleaning, right? It's all significant. And I saw that. Yes, it is all significant. And I came across two journals in particular, and it didn't matter. I opened both journals up at different times, clearly different places, and they were all about, again, relationships with a man, whoever I was longing for, wanting to be with at that particular time. And it talked about, I was writing about, you know, I don't understand, you know, why does love escape me? I don't understand. And then I was going to throw it away. That's the first inclination. Why? Run from it again.
Yeah.
You don't want to go back there because you've, again, healed yourself. And I said, Tamara, aren't you, again, talking about giving women tools so they can narrate their stories, so they can embrace the beauty of their dreams? Then you would be a hypocrite to throw this works away. So the first part, again, is I went to my sisters and my mother and I'm like, hey, I'm blacking out, you know, I'm not certain. So they helped me put as much of it together as I could, the journals. And then I wrote the book. All right. So the book was really becoming full-fledged and just coming openly, like all my dirty laundry, all of my wounds in these particular places, in these pages, because just like the book is titled Liberation Now, 5 Steps to Begin Realizing Your Dreams. I believe that each and every one of us deserve to live out the fullness of all of our dreams. However, I believe wholeheartedly that it can only be obtained by walking through these 5 steps. And that first step is to met no say. So that's the latter part of, you know, the answer to the question. Thyself, thou must know, Socrates. We cannot master anything, Embry, until we master ourselves. And I said, well, we all have gone through problems and we've solved them. And I wanted to share my framework with women who realize that the beauty of their dreams were important, and their dreams are worth following. And more importantly, it is important for them to narrate their story because I believe it's tethered to our success.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm always talking, and to have someone have me not say words that's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's something.
Oh, thank you.
This must be the last name. Now I'm gonna go back to a couple things you said. Now you said your birthday is about a week ago. Well, we go
November
today.
the 2nd. It was exactly a week ago.
Interesting. Okay.
So when's your birthday?
In 9 days.
Look at that. See, Scorpio. I'm telling you.
This is crazy.
See, here's the deal. It's all relative. Sweet November. November. It's all relative.
Very, very wow. And so how did these 5 steps come to you? Like, did you go through them first, or did you realize them first? And then did you go through each step and realize, wow, I just went through something? Or did you understand, like, this is what I have to go through and then do it? Or did you do it in, like, what order did it come? Did it come to you first, or did you do it first and then realize it?
So how did they come to me? First and foremost, I would say, yes, I had gone through them all, right? And that's why I can write about them with clarity, with depth, and then not only that, with passion, just so much enthusiasm. How did I actually put them in order? I was thinking about major challenges, things that I had overcome in my life. And I thought about, okay, what was my mindset? What was I doing? And then what were those tools? So I talk about, again, providing women with the tools to embrace their dreams so they can narrate their story. Yep. What were those tools? So the first one is, again, to met no says, I realized that I had everything that I needed. The universe, we come into this world with everything that we need to be successful. However, the universe shows up for us, but it only shows up if we show up.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm like, you cannot be an expectation that individuals are going to show up for you. The universe is going to show up for you. People are going to play interference for you, and you're not even standing in your truth.
Wow.
That was nasty, right?
That was nasty. Why you do that to him?
That was nasty. So that's first. And then let me say this, that philosophy, my belief and methodology is basically not only in the book, the e-course, but also how I facilitate in the classroom, right? So I'm an educator. I don't necessarily think that I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. So what do? The first 2 weeks, we talk about them. Because how else can you have progressive, how else can you have provocative dialogue and conversation? And then not only that, disagree if I don't know Emory, if I don't know Tanya, if I don't know Lisa, if I don't know Tamara, if I don't know the key players that are at the table, and knowing that just because we're disagreeing don't mean we have to be disagreeable. So what do? We create a platform, we create a team, we create a tribe. So
I like that.
Yeah. So again, and then the first, so then, okay, now that I'm like, okay, I'm me. I'm Tamara Lynn McMillan. I'm me. So then what would ideally come next? My mind. So now that I'm here, I have to take care of my mind before anything else. When I get up in the morning, my mantras, the things that I speak into my life, even drinking water the first thing in the morning. So it doesn't matter what is waiting for me when I walk out that door or when I open up this laptop, this square box. I am ready to be my best self. Why? Because I fed myself. So that was the growth mindset. Then the second one was, in that, just because I get my mind right, it doesn't necessarily mean that things aren't going to happen. Of course, life is going to happen. So guess what? That's why I dubbed myself the failure fanatic. If I'm not failing, I'm not succeeding. Anyone, Emory, and you know this, and all of the work that you've done, the people that you've interviewed, the books that you've read, the wonderful examples that we have, guess what? All of those individuals that are worth mentioning, they have failed in their lifetime. So why in the world would I believe that I would be exempt from failure? So I say, let's take failure and turn it on its ear and let's speak life into it. So much so, as a matter of fact, it's my dissertation topic. So I'm really writing about it.
Right.
And then we're going to fail. So how does the saying go? If you fall down 7 times, you get up 8 times. Resilience. Right. Resilience. They said resilience is probably the #1 key, especially in the successes of business and even in college students. It's not really those standardized testing. It's resilience. And the last, but certainly not least, the 5th step is the real MVP, and that's time. Because if you do not manage your time will manage you.
Yes. Wow.
So, yeah.
So this is like, you're getting, if you're listening right now, you're getting like keys and tips from the book. So I hope you're writing this down, and then I hope you get the book, because
yes, I'm hoping you get the book as well.
This is incredible, and it doesn't just apply to the specific situation that she's talking about. Because I'm listening. Obviously, I'm not a female, and I didn't go through the situation that you went through, but I'm listening and I'm applying it to what I deal with in my regular life, or what I have dealt with, and I'm looking at how these things apply to how I healed in certain situations, or how I'm healing in certain situations in the moment. And it's just like, this is not a book about, for a woman who's going through a divorce. This is a book for a human who wants to be better. And I love that you just broke that down that way, because for me, it's just like, wow. And I love that. I love to learn. I love to edify myself with more knowledge, because how can you be anything if you're not willing to learn about as much as you possibly can? You only know what you've experienced or what you read about, and even what you read about, you only know part of it because you haven't lived through it. So that is incredible, and I'm glad that you broke that down that way. So my next question for you is, how did you know that you wanted to make it into a book? Like, what, once you went through it, what made you know that you wanted to make it a book?
So I always knew that I would be a published author, and I would be an award-winning published author. However, I'd already been writing. And what I mean by that is I had been writing via my journals. And I didn't think that this particular book, my first book, would be my first book. And that's the beautiful thing about life, right, Emery? You don't know what you don't know. Right. And, into the space of, step number 3, failure fanaticism, and just still moving. That's what progress looks like. That's what growth looks like. Putting one foot in front of the other, even when you don't have all of the questions. You don't have all of the answers. And you don't even have some of the great questions to ask. You don't have all of the resources, the people in the right places, but it doesn't mean you stop. And that's where most people get caught up, right?
Yes.
So it came about literally, I'm gonna tell you, this is a beautiful story. And I write about this too in the book. Like, my life is just a book, it's an open book. It was 2016. It was May, June timeframe. And I, at that particular time, I was the former associate director for leadership at Buffalo State College. Okay. So we had just gotten a new director. She may have been going on her 2nd year at this particular time, or ending her 1st year, going into her 2nd. And it was my one-on-one meeting with her. So, managers have, one-on-one meetings with the people that they, supervise and what have you. So we had this great dialogue, and she asked, we had to fill out this questionnaire kind of thing, because she was new and she was trying to put her hand on all of the people in the office and what we liked doing, what we didn't like doing, what we liked about our jobs, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And she indicated, she asked me, about me teaching. So in addition to being the associate director for leadership, that's important. Right. I was teaching a leadership course in higher education. And she said, well, I don't see how teaching the leadership class is connected to your position. Right. Exactly. My niece, Kennedy, at the time, I think she was like 8 or 9. She was like, Tia, I don't understand. I'm like, Kenny, baby, I don't understand either. And the universe forced me to make a decision. She was just the conduit, right? So you never, right? She was just the conduit. And then I said, all right, what is it? So Simon Sinek, 2009, TED Talk, begin with why, or what's your why? Right. I said, part of, again, Temet no says, when you know your why, nothing or no one can corrupt that. when you know your why, nothing or no one could corrupt that. And Emory, I know that I am here to educate. I am here to teach, and in that particular space, and I'm here to speak.
Right.
And I had to make a decision. So I got together with actually my spiritual coach, and we put together a cold-blooded timeline. So she was like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm not going to stop teaching and educating. And so I want you to pause that. I want to go back.
Okay.
I was teaching for free. So hold that.
Wow.
They weren't even paying me because of my pure love for being in the classroom. So exactly.
So you're getting paid, you're doing this for free, and then they're questioning what's the relevance.
And not to mention, I had already won by the United States Students Government, which is the governing body. I was named after my second year Professor of the Year by the student body.
Wow.
Right. And then in my 6 years, I've gotten that honor 3 times. So she says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I cannot not be in a classroom because I know that's what I'm supposed to do. So long story short, we put together a cold-blooded, outline. Okay, this is what I need to do, and so on and so forth. So I walk away from a permanent appointment with the state, full benefits, health care, and vacation, and my daughter was in college. And remember, I am a custodial parent. I'm a single parent. I own my home, and all of these things are upon me. And I said, here. So I knew that I was making the right decision because I resigned on a Wednesday in August. I didn't call my mother. I didn't call my sisters. I didn't call any of my friends and the people that are around me. Matter of fact, I didn't start writing the letter until the middle of the day. And Emory, the letter was 3 sentences in length.
I want to ask you, right?
Go ahead.
What did it say?
Effective August something will be my last day. No, please accept this letter of resignation. As of August, whatever date it was, 2016, will be my last day as the Associate Director for Leadership. I wish you in the office my best. I remain Tamara L. McMillan.
Right. Can you imagine what they're thinking when they get this?
Well, she said, this is the shortest letter I ever received. And so for your listeners and for anyone who's struggling, because there's a whole bunch of people that's going to listen to this and hear this and realize this is the exact thing that they needed to hear. Right. You already know the answer. You've already received, again, confirmation, affirmation, but you're still holding on to, well, what if, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Let me tell you this. We do not get what we shoulda, coulda, woulda. We only get what we must. What must you do? And so she said, yeah, this is the shortest, letter I've ever received. And I'm like, okay, because she had already had a plan for my life. She didn't see me in the light that I saw myself. So what was the quote? When, again, you know your why, nothing or no one can corrupt that. And I already knew that I was supposed to be in the classroom. So I wasn't trying to pontificate. I wasn't trying to urge her, beg her, hey girl, hey, please. Either you see me for who I am and what I'm supposed to do, or you don't. And if you don't, matter of fact, we still speak and everything like, hey, ain't no love lost. As a matter of fact, like I said, she was the critical conduit. And I resigned in August of 2016. And when I tell you, I've not skipped a beat since. Walked away from almost close to $100,000 when you factor in my health insurance, when you factor in vacation and salary. Yeah.
Wow. Now, I want to go back to your letter. And the reason I wanted to go to your letter was because, like you said, there's people who are struggling with what if and why nots. And you said the only thing that we get is a must. What you must, the information you get provided is, this is what you must do.
Yes.
And so when you have that moment where you're looking to walk away from something, a lot of times we remain because we're trying to figure out how to tell them why we made our mind up and what we did and all the things and all the reasons. And we're looking for a loop. We're creating loopholes for them to convince us not to do it because we're afraid to do it anyway.
Sure.
And so when you elaborate and you say, I am leaving because you only gave me $102,000 a year and I found a job paying me $106,000 a year. I would really love to stay, but I can't. They counter offer, oh, we'll give you 108. Well, I still want to leave because you're giving them, just tell them you're leaving and because you need to leave respectfully. And you said, I remain. I said, ooh, I remain. So in light of this change that I'm making with your organization, that 3 sentences was powerful. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
In light of my resignation with this company, in light of what you said and what I said and how our conversation went, I want you to know I remain. Even without this. Even without what you get, what I got here, what's sure on the table for me right now, I'm going to walk away from it all because I know what I must do and I remain. Nothing you do or say or take away from me can take away who I am. And so I remain.
I love that.
That to me, that's powerful. When you that I remain part, and that's almost like the biggest. And I'm sure you didn't mean it disrespectfully because it sounds like that's just your salutation or your closing. But it to me is just like to someone who doesn't know people who know themselves. That could sound like the biggest slap in the face. Like, wait a minute, she's still gonna be great without me. I'm telling her that she got this job guaranteed with the vacation and the window and all she just can't be who she wants to be. But I'm still paying her good money. I'm still doing. Right. I mean, all she got to do is compromise who she is. How dare she still remain to be great?
Right.
And that's what a lot of people think when you tell them something or you change the narrative of how things are, or you walk away from what they see as a sure thing and you see it as a questionable thing because who you are is not determined by anybody else's ability to see your value. And so, like you said, what I must do is remain.
Absolutely.
And I have to keep moving so I can remain. Because if you would have stayed there, you would not have been remaining. You would have been compromising.
Right. And that's the point. How many times do we relinquish our crown to someone who couldn't have carried the weight of it in the first place? Personally, relationally, spiritually, in every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely.
And what did Dr. Maya Angelou say? When you know better, you do better.
Right.
When you know better, you do better.
Right. But she did not say, I remain, though. You said that.
no, she
I will keep on going back to that because, again, that's so powerful. That is so powerful in just that one line right there. Like, no matter what has come your way, you remain. You remain. Yeah. You only stop being when you stop being. Nobody can make you stop being. They can put a gun to your head right now and say, I want you to stop being who you are. Sorry, buddy. You can't. You can pull that trigger and I remain.
Come on.
You can't take me from me. And if I leave here, you can't take what I've given. I've been put here to give. So if I've given and given and given and been given authentically, even when I'm gone, I remain.
Exactly. And not only that, not only when I'm gone, I remain, but I remain in the likeness of other individuals that carry on that light.
Yes.
Because they came in contact with me.
Yes.
So it's when you're thinking about, again, Dr. Maya Angelou, you think about the John Lewises of the world, when you think about the RBGs of the world, all of the individuals that have come before us, Harriet Tubmans of the world, that we stand on their shoulders, they will remain and their legacy lives on because it lives on in us. And then it would be disrespectful for us not to pick up the torch and carry it on. The baton is in our hand.
Yes.
The baton is in our hand. Now, what are we going to do with it? So I tell, my clients, when I'm facilitating, when I am in the classroom, I say this, each and every one of us have something specific that we must do, and it cannot be delegated to anybody else. And where I can't say, look, fam, I'm tired today. Can you hold this? You be like, nah. That's yours because I have mine to do, right? And what happens, I believe, part of why when you and I run into individuals who are dejected, who are unhappy, miserable, and looking to blame and play the victim role is because they are not embracing the beauty of their dreams. Right. They do not see themselves as dynamic and bold and bright and brilliant. They don't see themselves for who they are because they've not done the work. Temetno says, thyself thou must know. If you cannot master you, you cannot master anything else. So you have people in these dead-end jobs. You have people in these dead-end relationships. You have people in these tumultuous scenarios and situations, even with bankrupt relationships with they self. Yeah. Because what did you say? They've compromised. You know what? You farming yourself out for a couple of dollars. You farming yourself out for some love. You're farming yourself out for some food. You're farming yourself out for some retail. You're farming yourself out for some drugs, alcohol, whatever it is.
Let me stop you there. Because yes. I like what you just said, but I wanna go back. You farming yourself out for some love, but you ain't farming yourself out for love. Love don't let you do that.
Well, and so
real love don't let you do that. And so they're farming themselves out for the temporary idea of what they feel like love is.
They're calling it because they don't know better.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know better.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because every other thing that you named has no weight, has no value, and so-called love has just as little value.
Yeah.
When
it's not real. Absolutely. When it's not real, and when it's bargained, when it is bartered for. Yeah. So I say this, as an individual who is a hopeful romantic, not hopeless, hopeful romantic. Love is beautiful. Love is kind. Love is considerate. It's not conceited, but love is not enough. Hold that.
No. You got to break that down for me. You can't just say that.
Well, love isn't enough. And we know that it isn't enough because when we look at the statistics, 50% of all marriages end in divorce. So if love was enough, the divorce rate wouldn't be as high as it is. So I say love isn't enough. Love is required, but it isn't enough. It has to be coupled with cooperation, communication, collegiality, partnership, compromise.
Yes. Wow.
Truth, honesty, respect.
Wow.
Just to name a few.
Just a couple.
Just
if you needed some.
Just a little few.
So here we are with this big, like you said, you and I run into people who have these scenarios, and thankfully they run into us.
Yes.
Because, well, not even thankfully, as determined before us, they run into us.
As designed.
And so they run into us, and we realize these things. We realize the feeling. We feel it. We sense because we operate on a frequency. And so when you come in contact with a frequency, and you're supposed to be AA, and you operating like a AAA. You're supposed to be a car battery, and you powering remote controls for toy cars. Something's not right in this frequency here. And so people pick up on that as well. When they come in contact with people like us, they just start talking. They just get to talking, and they get so comfortable. And it's such a refreshing feeling to know that. But it's also a big responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's a big responsibility that we've accepted to be the people that they can have these conversations with, or have these sessions with, or read these books from. And how do you hold all of that? I'm going to call it power. How do you hold that power in control? How do you keep that power in control in your life?
Listen, you're blowing my mind. Like, these questions are amazing. I remember coming in contact with a brilliant Latina sister, Anna. Anna was the graduate assistant in the C-STEP office at Buffalo State the last year we were on campus. And before she met me, she and I were introduced by one of her good friends, who was one of my former scholars who took my class. I can't remember which one, the Foundations of Leadership, maybe. And she sent me I don't know if she sent me an email or she told me, she said, you are a powerful weapon. And just even the imagery, right, took me a moment to really digest and to really process and like, wow. So how do I hold all of this power in play and utilize it for good?
Yes.
Again, I stay in my lane. I stay in my brilliance zone. I stay leveraging the thing that I know the universe has created me to do.
Yeah.
And I'm there and I continuously work on my craft. I continuously hone my skills. I continuously feed me. And then one of the largest things my spiritual coach, tells me, and reminds me, I give myself grace. I give myself grace because I don't get it all right all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm looking for, the times where I have missteps and the failure fanaticism, comes into play, because then that's where the lesson is, Emory. And then I can then share that with my constituents, people that are following me, people that want to hear, people that want to be better. And they see, again, a liberated project chick, from the east side of Buffalo be able to do that, then they can say, oh my goodness, I can as well. So it's all in stride. I give the universe credit again for all of us, but just showing up for me when I finally got it. I'm like, what did Jehovah say to be? This spiritual really works.
It really works.
Like, if I could just share, I'm like, yo, it really, really does. And that's what I would say. Just always expecting what belongs to me.
Right.
Expecting what belongs to me. And nothing more. Nipsey Hussle already told us, I want every dime that's owed to me. Not, I want every dime, but not a penny more.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
I
don't need excess.
I don't
need that. But I need what's for me, because my mission has a
requires
price.
it.
My mission has a price. One of my coach, her name is Kelly Kristen. And she told me one day I had a really dysfunctional relationship with money. She said, Emory, because I told her one day in one of our sessions, I said, I don't want to be filthy rich. And I tell the story a lot. And she was like, well, you can only be filthy rich if you're filthy first.
Come on now, Kelly.
I said, wait. I was like, what you mean? She was like, well, Emory, you just told me all the things you want to do, all the lives you want to change, all the places you want to get to, and you can't do that broke.
Say it again. And that's what I say. I am rich. I will be rich abundantly. My cup will runneth over. Why? Because how else can I pour into your cup, Emory?
Yes.
So I want to, and it's not for the reasons most people think it is. It's for access. Because access gives you a seat at the table. And if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Right. Yes. Or you eating crumbs off the floor.
Or sweeping it.
You're sweeping it. Yeah. So and again, but you either way, you on the menu, because at some point, when times get desperate, that's 100% right. I love that. I love that. So I'm gonna I have some questions. I actually had questions I was gonna ask you today.
Please do. We're just vibing. Listen, I'm here. Right.
So my first question is, once you created everything that you created, so you've created me. How do you say it? How do you say it?
Me.
You just say me, okay. Once you created me, tell people about me and why you created me.
All right. So me, as I passionately call my company, or McMillan Empowerment Enterprise, and I love it because it's a play on words. So when women read it, I want them to read empowered me, right? So they could, because again, I understand the power of words. So I created it again out of pain and trauma. I was going through divorce, and I didn't want for women, doesn't matter your social economic background, your educational background, your religious, background, your sexual orientation. I didn't want us to be suffering in silence any longer. So I wanted to create not only a safe space, but a brave space. We got the buzzword safe space. What freaking is a safe space? I want brave spaces when people are open and honest enough to disagree with one another. Again, disagreement for the sake of something that's bigger than everybody in the room.
Yeah.
So it was, again, going to be one event once a year, a conference where we came together annually to love on one another, to be collaborators, to be influencers, supporters, clapping for one another, standing in the gap, cheering one another on. So then that when we went home, we know that, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me. Like I used to say, you know, something wrong with you. And I realized there's nothing wrong with me because I'm me. There's nothing wrong with you. And what happens is, because we live in this very competitive society, we are always comparing. So Vincent Norman Peale said this: 9 out of 10 people are inferior. So if you in a room with 100 people, only 10 of them are solid, and you and I are 2 of them. So there's only 8 other ones. Right. Because of the ways in which we've been socialized. So that was the original purpose, you know, for MEE, just women coming together and just celebrating one another. And so let me say this, having to kind of go back and, like you said, how I put it all together into pieces. One, I realized that it began with my mother, my first example of a Black feminist, in real time, sports fanatic in real time. But she impressed upon my sisters and I, you don't fight your sister, you love your sister, you be there for your sister. We got whoopings if we fought one another. Wow. If anything happens to me, you will have your sisters, you take care of your sister. And so I grew up with that, impressed upon my life, my mind, my heart, my psyche. And then my mother had great relationship with her siblings. So I saw this, the love, and you hear so many unfortunate stories of sisters not talking, brothers not talking, hating on one another. And my sisters and I, now we will get mad at her if she make one of us mad because we're so tight. Right. Like, and the people will say to us, oh my goodness, I love the relationship with you and your sisters. I love the relationship. So Emery, I grew up knowing what a beautiful, healthy relationship was with another woman, my sisters. And I wanted to debunk the rumor that women couldn't come together and be friends and support, in particular, women of color.
Right. Wow. So now you got this thing. You got this thing where these people come together and they loving each other and they loving themselves. And it's not a safe space. It's a brave space. And they can be themselves and they can, you know, energize each other, feed off of each other. How did you know you wanted to grow it into something that made you money though? Well, let me take that back. How did you know that was going to become something that could fuel the rest of your dreams?
Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't know, for real. I wasn't certain. I knew that my voice would be my vehicle, but I didn't know what that looked like. I grew up thinking that I would be an attorney, make lots of money, you know, drive a 928S jet black Porsche, live in a condo. I didn't want to get married, didn't want to have any children, right? So I didn't know, but I knew that when I had, so it started, so I'm like, okay, I didn't know what it was. So I said, okay, well, let's start small. So the conference, I had a date, whatever, didn't happen because I didn't know what I didn't know. So, you know, I had to walk away licking my wounds. I lost some money, you know, marketing and whatever, didn't understand what that looked like, didn't understand how to, you know, tap into my constituent, my ideal constituent, which I call my IC. I didn't know how much money I'd need. I didn't know, you know, how often I needed to be connecting with them. And at that particular time, of course, the internet wasn't around or whatever, but, you know, IG wasn't around, Facebook wasn't around. So when you're talking about marketing, it looked completely different.
Yeah.
So
I said, a lot more work involved too. You
my really goodness,
calling people like you.
Yeah, and mailing, right? Because you're calling, mailing, and I said, okay, start small. So I created something called Cupcakes and Conversations. And I started in my home. So it was special invitation. I had maybe 10 to 12 women, you know, come to my home. We would have finger foods. We had wine and we had cupcakes, clearly, because it's Cupcakes and Conversations. And I'm a dessert connoisseur. I'm like, you can have food. I love sweets. And what they did, what I did was I wanted to get at issues that we were grappling with within our community. Wow. So to ensure that we were dealing with the issue and not the person who asked the question, Emery, the women received an email beforehand and they could submit their question first, or they received 3x5 cards when they arrived and they could write their question down, no name, anonymously. And then all of the questions went into a cute pink and chocolate basket. And then everybody played facilitator. So the basket moved around and you pick a question and you read it, and we could deal with the question, the issue, and answer it without saying what Emery said. Well, why would you think that? And nope, you didn't know who asked it. So that then blew up, and we had several of those. And then there was collaborations that came about from that. There were, I think it was 3. We did 3 collaborations with the Birchville Penny Art Center around the art installations that was there. And one was titled, I am not my hair, I am me. And it was about this installation from this sister. Her name is Terry something, I can't remember her name, from Buffalo. And she had this installation at the art gallery. So she was on hand to walk us through this conference. Like, when I'm telling you, powerful. Then there was another installation, a gentleman who did a piece on the chain gang in the South. And again, what that looks like, mass incarceration. And that was, mass incarceration, how it not only imprisons the individual, but how it imprisons our families and our communities. Then we had some individuals that have been incarcerated. We had individuals about, reform on standing room only. And then there was one other one that the title escapes me. And then from that, the Birchville Penny Art Center ended up awarding me with the Esprit de Corps Award that following year for the work, right, that we did. So let me say this, I didn't know, but it just kept evolving and things were happening. I'm like, okay, then we did pull off a conference, 3 conferences here. The last one was a sold out conference. Then I'm like, okay, wow. So then, I was speaking more, and then I was in a classroom. So all of these things where I got the opportunity to use my voice as a vehicle began happening. And then people were like wanting me, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this is what I do. And then the creativity certification, doing that. And then, just adding more on to what it is that I do to add value.
Wow. So I hope you see what I'm doing here, because I'm building this thing forward, right?
I love it. Listen,
now you got this thing that's selling out rooms, and it's turning people into, they're able to focus on problems and not the people.
Yes.
They're able to solve things. They're able to become less biased. They're able to become greater. Yeah. And so now, how did you know that you wanted to expand upon that thing even more? Because now you have such a following. Like, when your name comes up,
thank you.
It's like,
thank you.
How is she from here if that many people know her and respect her name? And it's just like, it's admiration. So I'm going to tell you, I never knew anything about this industry. I was on Facebook one day, and I had just found out, like, I had got a coach, but I didn't know anything about, like, I didn't know what it took to be what we are or do the things that we do. Sure. We're different lanes, but similar lanes. And I didn't know, like, what does she do? Her name is everywhere. I wonder if we're related. That's how it started. Like, I wonder if we're related. So I started doing research, and I'm scrolling. I'm like, yo, there's this much stuff about her from my city. I'm like, okay, fine. And I watched something, and you proudly always state that you're from the east side of Buffalo, New York. And so I saw that. I'm like, wait a minute, now we really might be related. So I'm like, okay, all right. So call my mom. I'm like, Mom, you know her? She's like, no, I don't know her. I'm like, all right, cool. Call my dad. Dad, you know her? I don't know. We got so much family, son. Okay, great answer, Dad. That's your answer for everything. So cool, fine. So I bump into you, and I ran up on you. I'm like, all right, we gonna solve this today. I was in Oak Room, And I believe you and your family were there for either brunch or breakfast. And
It was brunch. I was with my sisters.
Yes. And I'm like, wait a minute now. I see all these people sitting up here. Now, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to not only ask you, are you family, but is this whole table family? Because you don't know what you don't know.
It was both my sisters, my daughter, my niece, and then my best Ellis, my daughter's godmom. So yes.
Yeah. And I'm just like, so.
And then our aunt too, my father's sister. Yes.
And I'm like, okay, Emery, ask the question. I'm like, I'm like, walked over. I'm like, you know what? Fine. Are we related? And you're like, no, I don't think so. But let's run down the line. You gave me some stuff and I gave you some stuff. Like, I don't know them, but related now. I said, bad. I am the adopted. What, I don't even know my title. I don't know if I'm cousin, uncle, nephew. No, you cousin. But I'm cousin. See, that's where it is. Boom. And so, but what that did for me was it made me realize something about you, right? We have these ideas of people.
Sure.
And then we have these preconceived notions after we get the idea.